Hi, I'm Brent Haeseker, website consultant with NetSource Technologies, and I'm here again today with Justin Cook, who is our SEO specialist. And today we want to talk to you about Google budgets, AdWord budgets, PPC budgets, whatever you want to call it, and how to determine what the optimal budget is for your PPC campaign. A lot of people, when I talk to a lot of people on the phone, new customers, current customers, and if they're talking about PPC campaigns and what they're doing, a question or a thing that I hear a lot, I'll say, hey, are you doing PPC campaign? They'll say, yeah, we've tried that, but it didn't work for us. And so obviously that tips me off to ask some more questions. Well, how did you do it? What were you working on with it? What kind of techniques did you use? What was your budget on it? They'll say, yeah, we threw, 50, $100 at it. Didn't work, so we didn't think it would be worth trying to do any more than that. But obviously, as you know, and you've talked to me a lot about tipping points and things like that and how much you need to spend in order to get that return on PPC. Figured we talk today about how to determine what those tipping points are, how to reach that optimal budget for your PPC campaign. So if you want to kind of just start off talking about how do you kind of get to that point of determining what that optimal PPC budget is?
Sure. Well, the first thing that we do is a lot of research and data collection. The great thing about online advertising is the most measurable form of advertising ever. We can look at all of the stats of a user during the day, what they're searching for, when they're searching for it, and how they're searching for it, on whether they're a mobile device or a desktop or a tablet. So using that data and to leverage that into a PPC campaign, a lot of that can go into, okay, how do we determine the best budget and the tipping point for a customer? So we collect that on every industry based on competition, average costs, search volume for keywords, and then we can use that data and package it for small, medium, and large size businesses so that we can then get an in-depth analysis on different spending levels, so then we can find that tipping point for them.
Okay.
It will rely a lot of optimizations. After the data collection and after implementing that kind of stuff, we take about 3 to 6 months. We work a lot of the campaign, try to find some optimizations, get rid of a lot of the things that are not working, and then we eventually find that point where, wow, we're doing really good. Let's look at throwing some more money into it, investing a little bit more.
So, well, obviously, then it takes time to get to that optimum budget. But kind of are there some kind of guidelines as to where should I kind of start off? What's kind of the baseline to get started?
Right. So a baseline is determined by your industry. There are different types of competition that you're going to run up against. You're going to run up against the people that are just trying to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. You're going to run against people that are running just to get some what we call conversions, which are sales or leads, something that's actionable to your business. And then you'll run against people that are just, I just want everyone to know where I am, who I am. And those we call brand awareness types of campaigns. So that's where we start. What is your expectation? What do you want to accomplish? And how do you feel PPC advertising will grow your business?
Okay.
And
so
that's
based on what you're trying to do will also play into what your budget might be.
Right. So, and that's one of the most important things that we have to point out is that your expectation on how the advertising campaign and what you want to accomplish, that is a major portion of how we determine to advertise for you and ultimately your budget.
Okay. So if somebody says, the goal for my website is I want to sell more products, what would then kind of be the first step for them?
Right. So example, you want to increase sales by 5%.
Right.
We'd focus on customer acquisition. So when we focus on customer acquisition, we optimize for the most qualified buyers. So typically that would involve what's called a search campaign. Search campaign is a normal Google search. Someone types in shoes for sale and your ad pops up at the top. Those are the types of campaigns that drive the most sales.
Okay.
So what we would do is we sacrifice some of those other statistics that other companies might focus on, like website traffic or impressions, which is when people see that ad. we would sacrifice those statistics so that we could acquire the most customers possible.
That's interesting. You mentioned sacrifice. So it's not always, having all those statistics in your campaign look really good. Because a lot of times somebody might say to us, oh my gosh, my impressions are down or something like that. But sometimes you purposely might want to sacrifice some of those to get to the goal that you're trying to accomplish. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. So
Okay.
it's not like these campaigns won't record impressions and they won't record clicks, because you will drive traffic, because it is an advertising campaign. You will drive traffic to your website. We do use branded keywords and branded messages within your ad. So people will see your ad, people will click on your ad, and you will get that type of data.
Okay.
But let's say we have a keyword that's getting 200 clicks every couple weeks, and it gets 1,000 impressions, but it's not converting anybody. Nobody's buying from that keyword. Well, within a customer acquisition campaign, we cut that keyword. It's just costing us money. If we were focused on a driving traffic campaign, then we would keep that keyword and look for other keywords that are not going for the goal that we're optimizing for.
Okay. Now, are there different industry amounts? Like, say, if I was in real estate or something like that, and I wanted to have a PPC campaign, is there more or less on average that I would have to spend for that type of campaign versus, say, if I'm selling more products online?
Right. So I actually have some statistics in front of me for this. So, for example, a real estate campaign, we're looking at an average cost per click of $1.81.
Okay.
So cost per click is when somebody clicks on your ad and goes to your website. So they then collect all of the clicks that you had, the total cost that it was for the entire month. They divide it, and they have the average cost per click. So $1.81 is not too high. It's about a medium range for a keyword. For example, in e-commerce has an 88 cents click cost per click.
Okay.
So when you compare those apples to apples, an e-commerce campaign can get $880 worth of clicks. So that's 1,000 clicks for the cost of what that would take for real estate at $1,800. So different industries will have to pay a little bit more to get that kind of exposure.
Okay. So just based on your industry, it has a big impact on your overall cost, which means, you can kind of blame your industry, not so much always your web developer when you get hit with those, oh my gosh, it's going to cost this much money in order to do the campaign.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So what would be the most expensive that of industry out there, and what they're kind of paying for a click?
Right. So based on these industry averages here, we have finance and insurance, consumer services, employment services, and legal. So legal would be the most expensive. The average here is $5.88 a click. So that would accumulate to $5,880 if you wanted 1,000 clicks to your website. So those types of services are very expensive. However, those types of companies tend to have long-term clients that will spend a lot of money with them. So you always have to look at the other competitiveness of that industry. What is the cost? What is your typical ROI when you do acquire these new customers? And what is their lifetime value? So it's not always, oh, wow, that's going to cost a lot. Well, let's look at the lifetime value. Let's see if we can keep that customer coming back.
Right. Now, if your goal was more of a less so much product oriented or more of a brand awareness, how would that kind of play into the cost factor of your budget?
Right. So the Google Display Network, which is the what we would typically use for brand awareness, it's a lot cheaper. So a click there is probably about 30 cents. And that would probably be an average for most of the industries. When we pay for, let's say, 1,000 impressions, it's going to translate to about maybe $2.10.
Okay.
So you'd pay $2.10 for 1,000 impressions. So if we wanted to get, 1,000 impressions, you'd pay $2.18. If we want to get 100,000, you would, pay a lot more for it.
A lot better than if you're an attorney.
Right. Right. So while the amount seems less because you're getting in front of a lot more eyeballs, the Google Display Network is just for impressions. We typically don't see a very high converting rate there.
Okay.
You can get some sales and some leads from that type of campaign, but typically we want to reach a massive audience. We want to make sure that they know who we are. We're more cementing the brand name rather than getting leads and sales.
Right. So a lot does come into play on the campaigns. I think it's important to mention that even though you could be an attorney and having to spend thousands of dollars every month in order to acquire good quality leads, still, if you were to compare that to billboards or traditional advertising, radio advertisements, all of those things, they're themselves are thousands of dollars a month to do those types of things, especially print and everything else. So we're still looking at pay-per-click being very competitive and affordable, and as you mentioned, very trackable because you've got all that data to be able to find out how it's working for you and how to optimize the campaign to better serve you. Great. So is there anything else that you want to mention on the campaigns and kind of what impacts budget and things like that?
Yeah, the last thing I would mention is what the scope of the project is. So depending on what you're selling, so if you're selling products or you're selling a particular service that has multiple tiers to it, the cost of the campaign will depend on what the scope is. Are we selling every single product that you have? Are we going to try and push that to the Google Search Network and the Google Display Network? If we're just doing services, do you just want to push a particular service? Do you want to push all your services? So what that does is it will expand the amount of keywords that we have in the account, which will expand the amount of spend. So we look at all of those factors and say, okay, well, here is the best budget that we can give you. We'll give you a couple of months. Let's see how to optimize it, and then we'll let you know where that tipping point is.
Okay. So then, if I'm trying to sell everything in my inventory, and I've got 1,000 products in my inventory, that's going to be a much harder to get or more expensive to get all of that out there and market it on PPC versus if I said I want to just market my 10 top items and really kind of focus on that.
Right. Exactly.
And then obviously market reach or the location, how big of a location you're trying to hit too is going to
play into it as well. Letting local services, you will tend to have a point where it's just you can't really spend too much more because you're narrowed down to a specific radius. E-commerce campaigns, any type of service that can go national, those are where we kind of see $20,000-$30,000 in ad spend, and then you go into the international, which can blow out a big budget. So it all depends on what you want to accomplish, who you're looking for, and where.
Okay. So at a minimum, taking all these things into account, showing that there's so much variety in what your monthly spend can be, what would you just throw out there off the top of your head of very minimum that somebody would expect to have to pay on meaning minimum this amount or higher? What would that minimum be?
So a minimum budget that we would always recommend here at NetSource would be at least $2,000 in advertising spend. That doesn't factor in for your management costs. That doesn't factor in for any other like tracking that you want to implement with the campaign. That's simply for advertising costs. And the reason we say that is because when we go to the lower levels of 1,500 or 1,000, we don't spend enough money to get enough traffic to really make an impact.
That tipping point that we talk about.
And we don't learn anything about the account. We don't learn which customers are going for. We can't really make optimizations because our hands are tied. We don't have enough data to make certain decisions. So we need a larger budget, and we can push all of that into one particular category. And that's very important. If you're only going to spend $2,000, well, we're not going to advertise your entire store. We're going to focus on a particular category or subcategory, try to get the most data that we can to optimize, which when we do get the most data, the more data for your budget, it means that we can optimize it better and get you more sales, which would then hopefully lead to an increase in budget, which we continue this cycle of optimizations, sales. What do we need to do to continue getting to that point? The tipping points typically come anything over 6,000. We typically start to see 1.5 in returns, whereas like at 2,000 you would see maybe a 1.25 to 1 return. And
to clarify that, you're meaning on the
right, you get
the click-through ratios. Or are you talking about the amount of conversions for the percentage of the leads that or traffic that's coming in?
Right. So it's more of the revenue that it will lead. So you'll spend, let's say $1,000, and we can typically return about 2,500 in just revenue from AdWords, which, and then you minus management costs and all that, you would get maybe about $500 in pure profit at that point. And then once we hit that tipping point of about 5,000 or 6,000, we start to see greater returns, greater ROI. Then after that, about $10,000 and up and up.
Okay, got it. So like I said, when starting off, a lot of people will say, yeah, we tried that AdWords, we spent $50, $100 or whatever on it, didn't work for us. That's kind of the reason a lot of things that Justin is saying is why that doesn't work at those lower dollar amounts. So what we want to do is make sure you're doing Google AdWords so that you, instead of saying, yeah, we tried that, but it didn't work, instead you're saying, yeah, we're doing that because it works. And so that's one of the things we can definitely help you out with here at NetSource. If you have any questions on pay-per-click, you want to talk to us some more about it, feel free to give us a call. Our number to reach is 709-3240. You can also see us online at netsourceinc.com. That's netsourceinc.com. And again, I'm Brent Haeseker, website consultant here at NetSource.
I'm Justin Cook, the SEO PPC consultant.
And we thank you for watching this video. Hope it's helpful for you, and hope that we can help you in the future with whatever your marketing goals are. All right, thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye.